Hey guys, thanks once again for tuning in to Be Good Fruit. It's a podcast. We are here to give you our opinions, to tell you what's worked for us and practical applications of how do we put this Word of God into our daily lives and make it work. And that's what it is, us giving you our opinion. In the end, you have to look it up. You have to do the research. It's your relationship with Christ, not ours. So do the work, get to know Jesus, and do your best to dig into the Word. Without further ado, Be Good Fruit. Hello, everybody. Once again, this is Be Good Fruit. I'm Brian.
I'm David.
And today, another subject. We're going to go over the one I think that I have the biggest problem with. And it's not eating bacon. It's pride. Pride. You know, it's the sin that God hates.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so I'm going to read a dictionary definition. We like to define things. It's our dictionary definition. A feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements. The achievement? I mean, I guess it could be cheese.
Right.
The achievements of those with whom one is closely associated or from qualities or possessions that are widely admired. Man, I can't read today. But it's saying that a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction from your own achievements. Pride.
All right.
What do you think about that? Do you think that's a great definition?
It is one aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that is what most people know. So in so many words, that basically means being puffed up about what one has done or what one has.
Look at me.
Look at me. And, you know, so that's the basic breakdown. But pride is a little bit deeper than just,
oh, man,
just that. And we'll get into that.
Very much. I wrote down some examples, and this is something that I'm bad about. I will admit it. I am open here today. Boastful about accomplishments. Boastful. Some say, now this isn't me, want fame. I hope this isn't me. Better plan than God's plan. But being boastful about accomplishments or bragging or lack of humility sometimes. Right. The opposite of pride is humility.
Right.
You know, point blank, that's the answer.
Yeah.
One thing that we always want to do is give you practical applications. Once again, how do we fight against pride? Well, this is a really hard one.
Yeah.
Number one, I think, is realize that you're exhibiting pride.
Oh, yeah.
So many people, they have to be told, you're really prideful. Because they're going to get so self-absorbed. And, oh, man. What's some good examples to you about pride?
Well, taking it from the Bible, in the book of Daniel, chapter 4, verse 28 through 33, it talks about King Nebuchadnezzar, who established a great kingdom, and he starts to feel himself.
Yep.
And he's talking about, look at all the great things that I've built, and look at all that I've done. And he built a monument to himself and what made the people bow down and worship it, right? And it says that while he was boasting, while the words were on his lips, God humbled him. And if you're familiar with the story of Nebuchadnezzar, he ends up losing his mind and living like an animal, and his hair grew long and
wasn't eating grass
and just, just pretty much lost his mind. And it shows that pride, it's something that God hates.
Yes.
And it's false, because the truth of the matter is, with every human being, with every person, anything good leads back to God.
True.
It's like how they say rivers lead to oceans. All goodness leads to God.
And it comes from
God. Mm-hmm. And if you have anything, so maybe you're very good at doing something, or you can work harder than others. It's really easy to be prideful, but you have to remember, God gave you everything. Mm-hmm. He gave you those gifts. He gave you the ability to be able to work hard. You know, because that's one of the things that people love to say. Well, I worked hard and I made this and I put in the work and all that. Who gave you the energy?
Right.
Well, I figured this out. Well, who gave you the mind?
My own bootstraps.
Right. Who gave you that? You know? So it all goes back to God. And that's why it's so false. You know, God helps humble people. He rejects prideful people.
Yeah.
Because whatever he does, God gets the glory. Because it's rightfully so. You see what I'm saying? It's not that he's just so jealous, you know, and doesn't want to share his glory. It's false. It's false for you to think that it was you.
I've seen it where after the big game, you know, they'll interview somebody and you could tell they're just full of it. Like,
Right.
I did this, I did that.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of them say, we did this, we did that.
Right.
And then you get the people, Russell Wilson's really good about
Yeah.
it. He'll say, hey, the glory goes to God.
Right.
This is all my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And these things are all pointed away from even the team.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it goes. Kirk Cousins does it too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, God blesses us. And it's not cliche and it's not contrived. It's not forced. It comes from their heart. You can tell.
Right.
Saw a guy week or two ago on one of the games and, oh yeah, the glory goes to God. And then he went off into me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think he started right, but then he crept into the, oh yeah, you're interviewing me.
Oh yeah. It happens so easy. It happens easy. Human beings are made to worship. And I used to hear that a lot as a kid. We're made to worship you. We're made to worship God. We're made to worship God. Human beings are made to worship, and I didn't know what that meant. But what it means is whatever you are spending your time doing, whatever you're focusing on, whatever you're spending your money on, whatever consumes a lot of your energy or just, you know, your focus, that is a form of worship. You see what I'm saying? And the thing today is self-worship.
Oh man.
That is that is one of the biggest idolatry, you know, things that people do today is worshiping self. My comments and my viewpoints are so important.
My likes,
you know, look at me, look at what I'm doing. Look what I've got. Look what I ate today.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like self-worship. And it happens. It happens. You're going to worship somebody. Remember that Bob Dylan song? You're going to serve somebody.
There's a Catholic bishop who he says, Robert Barron. Mm-hmm. He says, I love the great philosopher Bob Dylan. You got to worship somebody.
You got to worship somebody.
And he's correct.
Yeah.
One of the things I heard recently, and it's made me think, is, and we've said it and we believe it, that you have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. But for the last 30 years, what he said, which seems plausible, is we've gotten away from the corporate church worship. I am part of a community of believers. I am part of a church. The church is people, not a building. Mm-hmm. The body of Christ is no more. And in this society sometimes, and I think Christians can be blamed for this, is they're prideful in saying it's my relationship with Christ rather than, well, yes, but it's also your relationship with the church.
With the church, with the body.
I think it's a whole bunch of people coming together in the church, but not forming the church, the body. Mm-hmm. And then they all leave and have their own,
own lives,
self-congratulatory thing. Mm-hmm. And I get that. We're not in the 1800s living on a commune because we have to, because if we don't, we won't survive because there's wolves and there's attacks from the enemy or whatever. But we definitely have this separation in today's society, so we become more prideful. It's so easy, like you say. Mm-hmm. One of the verses I found from Proverbs, oh my goodness, Proverbs should just be pride.
Right.
What not to do. So in Proverbs 11:2, it's the most famous one. When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with the humble is wisdom. That is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Here comes pride, there's disgrace.
Mm-hmm.
Here comes humble, that's wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
It's the opposite of pride is humility. It's such a big deal.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I also saw that stuck out to me, I noticed that God breaks your strong pride. And I looked in Genesis.
Your what pride?
Your strong pride.
Okay.
yeah. He breaks the prideful. Most people are familiar with the story of Exodus and, the plagues and all of that. Pharaoh let my people go. Even people who are not Christian or not, most people are familiar with that. And you see the story of God breaking down pride. And then before that, he dealt with 2 pharaohs before that.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you think about Abraham, right, the Pharaoh was going to take Sarah, his wife.
Right.
So he broke him down, right? Then you got Joseph, right? And then Pharaoh gets those dreams and these dreams are pretty rough. You know what I mean? They haunt him, they bother him, and God had to get in, he had to intervene and do something. So you see over and over, him breaking down pride, him having to work that out. And it goes to show you how he feels about pride.
Right.
It's just not something that he appreciate. There's a saying, God don't like ugly and he ain't too fond of cute either. So, it showed you. And then another thing to think about is David was very close to God, right? But he's very humble. Mm-hmm. Moses, in his time, there was nobody closer to God than him, right?
Right.
He was very humble. Mm-hmm. Messiah, our Christ, right? One with God.
Right.
Humble.
Washing people's feet.
So it shows you that to be close to him, you're going to have to be humble.
I'm looking at 3 types of pride. Mm-hmm. That was something else I looked up. And it's showing arrogance, which we talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. Like boastful arrogance. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm the best that ever was, baby. Mm-hmm. Superiority. Mm-hmm. That pride of no one's as good as, or it's kind of the same as arrogance, but it's a little different. Superiority is I'm better than those people. Arrogance is a little different. Been selfishness. Those are kind of 3 prototypes of pride. Mm-hmm. The selfishness is no one else deserves this. I deserve this, and that prideful. Man, it's just so easy to fall into it because if you're not careful, and some people are really good about being humble. I mean, my grandmother would, oh my goodness, she would never say she did something. It was, it was nothing. Like, Grandma, it took you 40 hours to make that quilt. Right. Well, I had time. And
right. Right.
Like, wow.
Right.
She'd tell you stories of all the trauma of living in the mountains in Appalachia. And he's like, well, that's just how it was. I'm like, no, Grandma, that was a big deal. No, It's okay. Everybody walked 50 miles.
Right. This is normal. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to, but go ahead.
No, that arrogance thing too. Being a musician, I've come across a lot of musicians. I got to play with a lot of musicians. And me and my dad were talking about this, and he was like, it's only really like 4 different kinds of musicians. You got the humble spirit, which is the guy that is probably pretty good and is easy to play with. It's not all about him. Then you got the prideful musician, the one who, everybody look at me. I'm, and in his mind, he is so much greater.
Oh my!
Than what he really is. He thinks he's just the greatest of all time, and everybody needs to come see me. And he's usually not that good. And that's that arrogance. And what I found that when I've met arrogant people, a lot of times they think they're so great and they're so good, but they actually have no confidence. Arrogance is insecurities on steroids.
I would agree.
Arrogance is insecurities on steroids. It's false bravado. I'm
Mhm.
trying to make everybody think, because really I
Right.
don't think that, and then people like that, you can always tell because they're very critical of themselves, or they're very critical to everybody. Whenever you see somebody like really criticizing people, then everybody's their own worst critic, right?
Oh, sure.
So then you got to think, man, if he says that about so-and-so,
Mhm.
imagine what he probably says about himself, and that
Yeah.
pride, that arrogance is yeah, it's really, and it's unattractive. Men respect confidence.
True.
Women are drawn to confidence,
Mhm.
but arrogance is a turnoff to just about everybody.
Yeah, there's a difference between that confidence and arrogance.
Mhm.
Here is Proverbs 16:5. Everyone who is arrogant in heart is an abomination to the Lord.
Mhm.
Be assured he will not go unpunished.
Mhm.
And that's so hard is why did they get away with it? Why are they that way?
Mhm.
I'm here trying to be humble and do the right thing, and I don't ever get anything.
Right.
And
I've stayed on the farm and I worked for you, Dad, and I'm always the one
there you go.
who's day in, day out, and then this one just goes and
Right.
spends all his money.
That's right. Yep, prodigal son. Pride does not give God the glory.
Right.
Pride is you trying to take away God's glory and give it to yourself.
Right.
Pride is not giving God glory for everything in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Pride is rejecting the glory. Pride is not rejecting the glory of men. There's no humility. And those three things I found to be a consistent whenever I did research on this, because
Right.
we think we know, but we want to research it.
Right.
And not giving God the glory, and not giving glory to God for everything in your hand, meaning, like you were saying before, you didn't make that. You had to rely on God.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, well, I bought it. Yeah, but how'd you get the job?
Right.
Well, I got the job because I went and interviewed. Who gave you the ability to talk? Who gave you that skill set?
Right.
What? And so those are the things. And you're not rejecting the glory of men when they praise you. You're like, yeah, I am that good. I am that awesome. I am the best with whatever.
Right.
When you're a musician and, yeah, I am that cool. And I did do that, didn't I? Look at me.
A great song that I wrote.
Now here's I said earlier, but this is actually the one that everybody knows. Proverbs 16:18. Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. And pride goes before a fall. They kind of shorten it sometimes.
Right.
And that's the one that people will quote, even if they don't know the Bible, like you say.
Right.
And it's very true. There's so much pride in our hearts, and why did Satan get kicked out? His pride.
His pride. Mm-hmm.
We don't understand just how bad this is.
Right.
And anything that doesn't give glory to God is sin, and pride is number one on that, because you're taking away everything that should go to God. You're stealing from him.
Right.
And that's horrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that thing of, well, I did this, I made this, I'm so great. Speaking from my own experiences being a musician, there would be times that I heard music and it just came to me. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then I would record it or lay it down. And it wasn't that I thought of it. It was that I received it. It was like I was the first person to hear it.
That's cool.
Opposed to I came up with it, or, I made it happen. Sometimes you receive that, and every man receives, every person receives. You receive wisdom. You receive knowledge. You see what I'm saying? Now, there's godly wisdom and there's worldly wisdom,
Right.
but everybody receives that, and it's just so easy, when you have so much, or you have something that seems to outshine other people. It's just very easy to start thinking, well, it's you, but who made you? You know what I mean? I always keep that in mind.
One of the things that we will do that make us more prideful. Guys are horrible about this. I'm bad about this. I have friends that make fun of me for this. And we all have this problem of someone will tell a story and it'll remind you of, oh yeah, I did that too. And then you'll want to tell your story, but sometimes you get into that one up. And I've done that. You know me, I've done that. And a lot of times it's just because you get excited, but sometimes it's because you have pride.
Yeah.
And look how cool I am.
Yeah.
And I do it. And like I said, my friends will make fun of me. They've known me for a long time. And I come by it naturally from my dad. I love you, Dad, but you do it too. And it's just how it happens. And we get in that trap of, well, I broke 3 bones. Well, I broke 4 bones.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you call that pain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in my day,
Right.
I broke 12 bones every day.
I took 2 buses and a train to get to school. I used to walk 10 miles to school and 10 miles back.
I had to carry the bus.
Right. Right.
They asked me to carry the bus. And
Right.
then it gets stupid. But that's a form of pride, is when you gloat, and maybe you're not lying.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're telling the truth. Maybe you did break 4 bones. But when you use that as, notice me, look at me, I'm better.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
And I've done that. And I'm bad about that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my problem. And
but see, that also goes on. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. That also goes on back to how easy it is to do that, because if you're having a conversation and you're relating,
yes.
right? So you talking about a story, I'm talking about something that remind me of, to add to that.
Mm-hmm.
But then it goes from that to one-upping,
It does.
Yeah.
It does. So in 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 6. I love Peter. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time he may exalt you.
Right.
So God will exalt you instead of you exalting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of you saying, look at me, God will say, look at my guy Brian, look at my guy David, look at my guy Billy Joe Bob. And that's what's so cool.
That also, I'm sorry, just to add to that also reminds me of what Nebuchadnezzar said. He said the same thing once his mind was restored after the fall. And he praises God. And in his praise, he says, God rejects those who are proud, and he gives grace to the humble. He says he's able to humble those who exalt themselves.
Very much.
Yeah.
Very much
but
so.
That made me think about, what you were saying, and I just had to one-up you,
There you go. Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah? Well, I got one from James. Because I always got to bring up the book of James.
Right.
Every podcast will have James in it.
Oh, okay.
Because
you're a big fan.
It's my number 1 book. James 4:6. Seriously, though. James 4:6. But he, God, he gives more grace. Therefore it says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. And that's Proverbs 3:34 that James is referencing. But God gives more grace, and he gives more grace by this opposing the proud, and gives grace to the humble. And it's by grace you're saved.
Mm-hmm.
Ephesians 2:8.
Mm-hmm.
And this grace is the free gift of God, and it's saying he gives more grace. God's going to give you grace because when you're humble, you'll get that grace. When you're humble and say, I have sinned.
Mm-hmm.
When you're humble and you say, I am a sinner,
Mm-hmm.
some people just know it. Some people have to hit rock bottom.
All right.
Some people have to wake up. I was partying here and it's 3 days later and I'm naked over here or whatever it is, right?
Right.
So you have to hit some kind of rock bottom, but you don't have to if you're smart about it. But some people do before they look up.
Mm-hmm.
More Proverbs 18:12. Before destruction, a man's heart is haughty, but humility comes before honor. Such a big one. Psalm 10:4. In the pride of his anger, the wicked does not seek him. All of his thoughts are, there is no God.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so many times people, they don't realize it, but as you are self-promoting, as you are doing all of the self stuff you said at the beginning, you're pushing God out.
Right.
Rather than say, well, if it's God's will, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy to say, well, yeah, I can do that. And maybe you can, but it's more important to have that humility.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we always try to do is practical application. How are we going to get through pride?
Also, I wanted to point out a couple things too.
My bad. Go.
No. It's so we've talked about what pride is and the definition of pride and what it looks like from that perspective of a person having more of a higher, opinion of themselves than they ought to.
All right.
But pride also manifests in different ways. And to go back to, practical application and what does this look like? What does this look like in real life? Because here's the thing about pride. It blinds us. People are blinded when a person is proud, they are blinded by it. They don't see the truth.
Right. Right.
Just like how I was saying, a musician thinking that they're so great, they're blinded by the pride. They can't see the truth. So how do you know? You could be talking about pride and be a prideful person because you're blinded by it. So here's a way to know that if you're struggling with pride and what this looks like in real life. And I wrote down a few things.
Okay.
Here are some of the symptoms of pride. Mistreating other people, talking over them. You know what I mean? Just, kind of goes back to what we're saying about one-upping people. But when a person has a higher opinion of themselves, they tend to, a person could be talking and then you just, talk over them. Because surely what I've got to say is much more important. We can just cut that short.
They're not listening. They're just waiting for you to pause.
Waiting for you to stop talking so they can start.
So I can say what...
Right.
Okay. You done? And me.
Right. I can jump in.
Me.
And here's
it's bad, man.
Right. Here's another thing. Being easily offended.
Yeah.
If you're easily offended.
No, that's hardcore truth.
That is a manifestation of pride. How dare you talk to me like that? How dare you do me like that?
Right.
I am better than that. You should not treat me like, well, everybody can get it. You know what I mean? Everybody gets their feelings, or everybody can, everybody is subject to mistreatment. But for a prideful person, how dare you talk to me like that?
Who are you?
Who are you to say that?
Yeah.
Here's another symptom of pride. If you're struggling with unforgiveness. Unforgiveness is a symptom of pride.
That's true.
A humble person knows that they're not above, mistreatment. They're not above people doing something that they don't like, So they are aware of how much they've been forgiven, right? Because they're humble, so they have a clear mind and they know their own shortcomings and they're quick to forgive other people. You see what I'm saying? When a person doesn't want to forgive nobody, it's still that pride thing. How dare they do that to me?
That's right.
Prideful people have to have the last word. They have to, they got to get the last word. And instead of just, you know you right. You can be having a conversation about something. You know you're right.
Right.
Well, instead of arguing, is it really that serious? Look, I'm gonna just let this person talk. I'm gonna just let them,
Yeah.
because they want, because most arguments, regardless of whatever they're about, is basically the way I think is better than the way you think.
That's true.
My thinking is better
That's
than
true.
yours. So when you're arguing, that's prideful.
And I think, just to interject,
Mhm.
that's one of the things that got me in trouble a few times is I would want maybe not the last word,
Mhm.
but the biggest put down or the biggest
Right.
gotcha. The one that slammed you down and you couldn't recover, kind of a thing.
Right.
And,
Right. Oh.
yeah. Ooh,
Right. You got owned.
you got served.
You got served. Right. Exactly.
So lame.
And another symptom of pride is a prideful person hates to be corrected.
Oh, big time.
They don't want to take correction.
Yeah.
They don't really ask for help because in their mind they're so great. They're
always right. So
they're
why
always
would
right.
I?
And they take credit for what other people do.
Ooh, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Because it's all a reflection of me. Well, I'm the one who hired him.
Right.
See what I'm saying? I'm the one who brought him into the project. That's all a reflection. Whatever they do good, that's a reflection of my good judgment.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
It wasn't even you. It's Billy Joe Bob.
Right.
That's really good. I like that.
And then here's another one, and because here's another thing that I've witnessed too. You have people that have this false humility, this fake, it's prideful, but okay, here's an example of it. Have you ever had a girlfriend or a relationship or something, and your girlfriend, she could have told you that something, is not right, or something's broken, or something needs to be fixed or whatever. And then instead of telling you that, they go and do it, only just to bring it up later. Well, I had to do this and you didn't even care. And you didn't even, well, if you would have said something about it, I would have fixed it. Well, no, I just did it because, oh, poor me. You know what I mean? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a girlfriend. I'm just saying that because we're two guys or whatever. But, men can probably do this too. But it's that false humility. And then you becoming the standard for everybody. You know what I mean? That you meet. You're the standard for everybody. Well, I'm the one that's always working, and I'm the one that's, in the project, I'm doing all of this. And I wish that y'all would work as hard as I work.
Right.
I wish that you would give it like I give. Nobody gives to me.
Just do half of what I do.
Right. Nobody gives to me the way I give it. And I'm always the one, and I'm doing all this, and nobody does it, and that's false because you might be equipped to do certain things that somebody else might not be.
True.
And every group and band I've been in, every band has its parts. You play your part, that person plays their part. You can't get mad because they don't play that part when they're not able to play that part. You see what I'm saying? But becoming the standard for everyone you meet, that is a manifestation of pride. You're just, well, I come and and I give everybody respect, and you see what I'm saying? Well, everybody's not going to give it back to you the way they give it back to. So you got to allow grace, and you got to be able to meet people where they're at. You see what I'm saying? And everybody knows that it's not to be prideful. You know what I mean? You're going to come across a person who their understanding is not to boast about yourself, but you can see that because you probably recognize that in your own life. Man, I remember when I used to do that. I remember when I thought like that. So you have to meet them where they're at. You can't complain because a tree hasn't fully grown when it's, barely coming up. You can't get mad at it because it's fully. So you got to have grace. You got to allow grace. That is a sign of humility. When people can just meet people where they're at, opposed to, hey, they're just not on my level. That is also pride. And then one more,
Sure.
what pride also does, it hardening of the heart. You
Oh yeah.
become
Oh yeah.
less sensitive to people's needs because you're
Mm-hmm.
so wrapped up in you. So you people, I've dealt with folks. They'll mistreat you. They'll say something to you. They didn't even realize that they did what they did
Mm-hmm.
because they're blinded by pride and they're all wrapped up in themselves. That's another reason why it's a bad thing, especially in your Christian walk. In service, you're gonna have to serve. You see what I'm saying? And you have to be sensitive. When you're prideful, you're not sensitive. Your son might need you. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But you're so focused in yourself. People are, suffering or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you're not doing what you should do and being there to help them because you're caught up in yourself, and so pride it's a really bad thing because it blinds. I mean, it really does. It
Right.
it blinds you, and then when somebody sits you down and say, hey, this is what you did, or you if you watch footage of yourself, you know what I mean, like
That ain't me.
you right, you'd be like, I said that, I did that, you didn't even realize it.
A lot of times I see pride. Pride says, serve me.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the opposite of pride? Humility. And humility is Christ. And Christ says, no, let me serve you.
Right.
Pride says, serve me. Humility says, let me serve you.
Mm-hmm.
And then through serving you, like it says in that 1 Peter 5:6, humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time,
Mm-hmm.
God will exalt you.
Right.
So as we, and I, as you were saying that, I could see so many people in my mind I've worked with who were like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just,
Right.
these people.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta love them. But that is you did a great job on the list. Those are good things to look out for. Those are areas of pride, and maybe listening to this, you guys are thinking, man, maybe I am prideful.
Yeah.
I do that.
Yeah. Because there's some pride in just about every human being.
Or maybe they said, well, I'm not that bad. I didn't do that. I didn't do everything.
Right.
I only did 8 of the 12.
Right.
Well,
I'm not as bad as that other person over there.
you should see my cousin's son.
Right.
These people.
You think I'm bad?
Oh yeah, go to work. Let me talk. You talk to Brenda.
Right.
Good Lord. These people, yeah, or like I say, some people's kids.
Right.
Well, how do we fix it, man? What are the practical ways we deal with pride? So I have some things I wrote down. Give me your opinion.
Great.
All right, don't be like me. Oh no. Well, pride is a stumbling block. And it's a stumbling block that seems so little, but it can be a mountain when we don't remove it.
Oh, yeah.
And that pride is what stops you, stumbles you, trips you up. Place your metaphor there.
Mm.
Practical ways to deal with pride. First of all, you got to realize it's there. Hey, I know it's in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do I do all 12 or however many we've listed? No. Even if you do one.
Right.
And even if you do it only once a month, that's technically it's too much.
Right.
Realize that you are doing it. Realize that it's there. Well, how do you know? Well, do you wait for someone to get quiet so you can speak about yourself? Like you were saying.
Right.
That's a big one.
Right.
Like, okay, okay, me.
Right.
Me.
Followed by me.
And do you complain about others a lot? Like, even if it's a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know we'll complain, man, so-and-so made me mad. But if you're always moaning and bemoaning about people and saying, this is horrible about these people, what you're truly saying, and you touched on this, is they're horrible, but I'm so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Look at how great I am.
Mm-hmm.
They never do dishes, but I do all the dishes.
Right. Did you hear about so-and-so's kid and what he did? My kid would never do that.
My child, He came out of the womb with a doctorate.
Right.
Had his dissertation done by one.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm.
But what you're saying is when you complain about others is they are lower than you.
Right.
And you're better. One of the other ways you could see maybe, hey, how do I realize it's there? When you speak, how often are you the subject?
Right.
Is it, I mean, we can't all just always go up in pure piety.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard what Jesus has done today? And Christ in our lives. And that's it's nice.
Right.
But, your talk should be of God but it doesn't always have to be reading Proverbs or something. It can be pleasant speech. It can be something that's that.
Right.
But if your speech is always reverting to you,
Right.
what you've done, what you've accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I got a new truck.
Right.
I got this. Did you see my house?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, have you heard about?
Mm-hmm.
I've got a friend. I've known him for a long time. I'm not going to mention him because he'll probably listen at some point. This dude, he actually has on his Facebook page, he's quit doing anything, and all he does is posts everything about his kids and what they're doing.
Oh, yeah. Everybody has a friend like that.
Now, to be fair, his son's a monster on the basketball court, and he's doing great.
Oh, yeah.
But it's all he does.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And he actually has it listed as the so-and-so sports network, and it's his kids, and it's so incredible.
I hate.
I love you, man. You know who you are.
I hate when people do that and they have not just one child. I could expect somebody who has one child to kind of be wrapped up in them. But when they do that to just one child and then leave all the other ones, they never show pictures.
That's
but
harsh.
Go ahead, man. I'm really enjoying these things you're saying, man.
So all right, another way to deal with pride. So first we have to realize it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And those are some ways we can realize it. There's more, and we've gone over that. Now, once I realize it, I have to read and study the Bible. I have to read all about pride. You can go to what's called the concordance.
Right.
Concordance,
yeah.
Big word.
Mm-hmm.
And in the back of the Bible, you'll look up pride, and it'll tell you all the verses on pride that relate.
Mm-hmm.
You can look up certain things about pride, arrogance, or you can look up boastfulness, and it'll say, here's a lot of people who are way smarter than us went through and made this list for you.
Mm-hmm.
Here's everything everybody's ever said in the Bible about pride.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to study. It's a big test of life. You have to study for this test.
Right.
And you're studying for yourself, your family, your kids.
Yeah.
Your friends, your church, your coworkers. You need to be that example. You need to wash their feet, so to speak. So, if you're going to run a big race, you have to train. So why not learn all the Bible has to say about that? And this is one, is you have to find people you can trust. Once you know what you're doing, man, I'm prideful. Here's what I'm doing. I'm studying the Bible. I'm trying to learn. It always goes back to that. Learn Scripture.
Right.
How do I be good fruit? Learn the Bible.
Right.
How do I quit? Learn the Bible.
Mm.
Learn the Scripture. And it's all in there, all of it.
Mm.
Have someone you can trust to keep you in check. Just really, really, truly have someone there that say, hey, you're doing it again. Ah, crud. Sorry. My bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Or just, say you get into a heated argument with somebody, then you leave that argument and then you go back to that person that you trust, that friend that you have, and you say, okay, dude, and then tell the whole truth. Because what a lot of people do is, in their story, they're always the victim. No, tell the whole truth, because if you're going to deal with it correctly, you got to bring it all into the light. And you say, okay, well, he did this, I did this, I said this, such and such, such and such. Buddy, tell me, what do you think? Am I wrong? And then your friend might say, well, hey, I see why you're upset.
Right.
I understand that, but maybe you could have handled it this way. So just having that friend, that iron sharpening iron, having that friend to go to.
And you've done that for me.
And you've done that for me too.
You've done a lot more for me. So, okay, so you've been saved. When you're a Christian, you've been saved, but you're saved. You're saved from that separation from God, and you were separated. When you're saved, you're reconnected.
Mm-hmm.
Sin separates us from God. Pride, more than any, will separate us from God. But you've been saved for service. Right. You've been saved to serve others, and by serving others, you are more humble. Mm-hmm. That humility, when you are serving, you are humble. When you're doing things for the homeless through that foundation that you were working with, that is really humble. When I would give out, sounds prideful, but I would give out appliances to homeless mothers or people that needed it. I would just go help and get appliances. I'm really known for that. Mm-hmm. Hey, had a lady call me 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. My dryer's out. Okay, let's find a dryer for you. And I have a knack for it. I can find dryers real cheap. Mm-hmm. $50 is what I can find them for. Mm-hmm. I don't mind spending that, installing it for them because they need a dryer, they have kids or whatever. Mm-hmm. But that's serving. There's no way you could feel, well, I guess there is if you're horrible, but you're serving, you're humble, you're giving out food, you're helping, you just eliminate the pride by serving. Right. And then by doing that, you'll be good fruit.
Right.
You're going to be good fruit.
I see what you just did there. Yeah.
So you have to start making the choices not to be prideful. Mm. It's so important to, I'm kind of going long here, but it's so important to make the choice to not be prideful. You have to have it in the back of your head. Is this humility? Is this serving God? Am I detracting from God's glory by doing these things? By telling this story, does it honor God? By telling these things to you, am I furthering Christ's kingdom on earth, or am I furthering Brian's kingdom on earth?
Right.
Am I saying, hey, here I am. Look how cool I am. Did you see this? Did you see that? Mm-hmm. Pow, baby, look at this. Mm-hmm. Well, that detracts from God. We have to have forgiveness, like you were saying. Mm-hmm. Forgiveness releases our anger. Mm-hmm. We don't forget.
Right.
But when we truly forgive, we process it, we get through it. We're able to let go of the anger from the past that would trigger some pride, like you were saying. Mm-hmm. James 4:7, submit yourselves then to God. Submit. Mm-hmm. Like, quit being prideful, be humble, submit yourself to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. To give authority over and all your actions to the Lord is to submit, to let go of all your selfish desires and have Christ rule over all your decisions 100%.
Right.
That's submit. A prideful person will not submit. You've said that quite a bit on what you were saying. Mm-hmm. When you are full of pride, you will not say, oh, go ahead. Yeah, lead me. Tell me, God, what should I do?
Or, like that, like I said, that fake humility thing, everybody needs help sometimes. And then a prideful person will say, okay, I need your help, but do it like this. This is what I need you to do. This is all I need you to do. Just come in here and do this and do that.
Just get out of the way and let me do it.
Right. Yeah. Then don't even let them do it.
You ain't even doing it right.
You're not doing it right. Move. Yeah. So, that you have to really submit. You have to say, okay, like a person who is being trained, a journeyman, apprenticeship, right? They have to submit to what their teacher is telling them.
That's a good point.
There's no, and they make that understood at the beginning. Look, when I tell you to do something, you got to do what I'm telling you to do.
That's really good.
You see what I'm saying? And that's what we got to do with God. because you might not understand it. That's where the friction happens, or the breakdown, because you don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to you. But when you submit, it's somebody who knows. They see the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? They have an understanding that's better than you about that. And then you submit to that.
You have to trust them.
You have to trust them. And that's what we have to do with God. We have to submit to God. But a proudful person, they I just don't feel right. I let you lead me. I've seen videos where women, people are getting married and, and they go over the vows, forsake all others and, for better or for worse, to obey. And then when they get to that part, they be like,
I don't, can we reword this?
And it's hard. It's hard for a lot of people, because here's the thing. And I always say this, since the beginning, man wants to be his own God.
Oh, yeah.
Man wants to be his own God. And that's one of these new age teachings. That's what all that is. I'm the one who is vibrating at this high level, and I'm the one who is, you see what I'm saying? I'm creating all of this, and it's hard. And like we said, how a person can slip into that. Well, of course, you want to do the best you can in life. You want to get up and try. You want to get up and, try your hand and do this. And, we've all been given certain gifts and things, but, next thing you know, and I'm doing this, I'm making this happen. But go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry.
That's fine. One of the other things is, it's really only when we have fully submitted to God's will, God's way, only then can we begin to resist the devil.
Right.
When I was talking about resisting.
Mm-hmm.
And you resist the desire to be prideful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we try to do with Be Good Fruit is, hey, from our experience, and unfortunately I have a lot of experience of being prideful. I'm getting better. I'm still there. I'll do it.
Right.
But you really have to be mindful of it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make that choice. Don't be prideful this minute, this hour, this day. How do I fight against that? You have to be slow to speak, slow to anger, quick to listen. Another James 1:19.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so true. If you are slow to speak, slow to anger, yet you are quick to listen, you will avoid so much of the prideful moments in your life because you're quiet.
Mm-hmm.
You're just shush.
Right.
Humility is a very high status. Matthew 23:12. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted.
Mm-hmm.
And that's said a whole bunch of times in different ways through 1 Samuel 2:8, Psalm 18:27, Proverbs 3:34, Isaiah 57:15, Ezekiel 21:26, Luke 1:52, Luke 14:11. It consistently says the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And these are all different people.
Right.
Who say the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted.
Mm-hmm.
And just like I said a little bit ago, when I was saying how in 1 Peter, in proper time, God will exalt you.
Right.
That's what's so hard to understand is trusting God,
mm-hmm.
giving him control so that he can exalt you at the proper time. Whereas we want that, well, ain't no time like the present.
Right.
How about now? Look at me now.
Right. It's not time yet. All right.
Buddy, quit it. So when it comes to pride, what's your last couple things you want to say?
Like you're saying, one of the things to combat it is service.
Oh yeah.
Even if you feel like you don't struggle with pride, I've dealt with depression in my life. I've dealt with, loneliness and things like that, which are not good feelings. And figure out a way, what helps me figure out a way to serve. You see what I'm saying?
True.
That serving, and that makes me think about when Jesus washed his disciples' feet and he told them, he said, you will be happy if you do what I just did. You see what I'm saying? There's a reward that you get. There's a reward from God, but it's not about what you can get. You see what I'm saying? It'll make your heart glad.
Oh, very.
To help somebody get something that they need.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And if you're dealing with depression, it usually, whatever you're going through, it's usually this equation. You're not where you want to be in your life. You're not happy with how things are going in your life. Maybe your life is too much revolved around yourself. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. If you step out of yourself and you serve, that's a way of getting rid of that depression. You see what I'm saying? Because you're all wrapped up in you, which is kind of selfish, which can go back to pride. You see what I'm saying?
I've heard that before, where some psychologists were saying the greatest way to get through depression, is really in service to others, because you start to realize other people have it bad as well, or you'll realize I'm not the only one in these positions, because sometimes depression is a self-feeding mechanism where you isolate, and I'm isolated and I'm horrible and I'm this and I'm that and poor pitiful me. And I know it's way more than that. Don't mistake it. Yes, it can be chemical imbalances. Yes, it can go trauma and those things. But on a level, this is true, where part of it is you will get caught in that cycle. I worked about 4 years, maybe 5, in group homes, people with mental challenges and some disabilities. And having to help someone get in and out of their wheelchair, or I taught a dude how to use a spoon. That's how far gone he was. And it was amazing, the pure joy you would get knowing their history, how they came up, how much abuse these poor people. You don't know the amount of abuse people take.
Oh, yeah.
And you're able to make their lives so much better just by, let me show you how to take these eggs and make a quiche. We would make a lot of casserole dishes. They've never cooked in their lives. Will they ever be independent? No. They have so many challenges they can't. But in this group home, they have independence, and they have a way of making their lives better. And while I got paid a little, I mean, this is back in the day when they gave you like, what was it, $4.25 an hour?
Right.
Good grief. It was so anyway. Right. But that serving, you're so correct. That serving is what made your heart just full. Broke your heart too when these things didn't work out, or this person forgot how to do these things, or you would hear all the abuse. It just break your heart. But even in the breaking of your heart, it lowered your pride. Right. And I promise I was a lot less prideful when I worked there.
What's that saying? I used to complain about not having shoes till I met the guy who had no feet.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of that.
Right.
And we don't want that for anybody. But when you start to realize you have pride, here's what I'm going to do about it. I'm not going to be prideful. If I can help it, this hour, this minute, these 3 seconds. And in conversations, this is where I struggle. In conversations, let's learn to be slow to speak, be slow to anger, be quick to listen. Those are the ways to combat it. And I hope this works for you. We really do want to help in these practical applications. We say that a lot, but it's true. We're only here to help because we've always asked, you hear it. That sounds great, but how do you do that?
Right.
And that's the whole goal we're trying to do here is how do you do that?
How do you do that? All right.
All right, man. Well, this has been Be Good Fruit. I'm Brian.
I'm David.
We appreciate you guys listening. Soon we're going to have email up, and we'll have some Facebook and Instagram pages, and hopefully we'll get everybody involved a little bit more. But we're going slow. We're building it up. Thank you, and we'll talk to you next time.
Peace.